What was the scariest/creepiest thing that happened to you? When I was 10 or so, I had an incredibly vivid nightmare that I was being chased through a dark maze by a giant, disembodied hand. I woke up in a cold sweat, shaking all over, but needing to use the bathroom. I mustered my courage to get up and walk to the bathroom, and when I turned on the light, the hand was there waiting for me. I screamed at the top of my lungs, and then woke up for real. Turns out I had a false awakening, where you dream that you wake up. Thinking I was awake and finding my nightmare had come true was mind-numbingly terrifying. Definitely the weirdest thing was the night after my dog was put down. He wasn't allowed on my parents' bed, but sure enough when we left the room, he would jump up and mess with the covers. My dog was put down in the morning pretty suddenly, so my mom didn't get a chance to make her bed. When we got home after a bit of grieving, my mom started to do her daily chores, and this included making the bed. I was in the room when she made the bed, and it was perfect. We both left together and watched some TV with my dad, and we were the only three in the house. After whatever we were watching was over, I saw my mom walk down the hallway, and as soon as she saw her bed, she screamed. The covers were the messiest they've ever been. This happened for a couple days right after, and then just stopped. My family is completely convinced my dog's ghost hung around for a few days after he died. I love this. The thought of the dog saying, "You know what, fuck these guys, put me down all you want, but I'll still fuck up your shit," is grand. My best friend and her father dropped me off at my house after school because my parents were still working. As they were driving away, they saw a man who was a lawn care dude sneak behind me from the side of our house while I was unlocking the door with my back turned. They slammed it in reverse, honked like crazy, and he bolted. I was 14 and so frightened. That's when my innocent child view vanished. I don't know what would have happened if they didn't see him. Glad you're okay. So many reasons why I always wait until my passengers are safe inside their house. Nothing supernatural or creepy, but I had a grand mal seizure out of nowhere. Don't have a history of neurological disorders to be clear. Got into my car and started hearing these loud whispers and started getting real dizzy. Took the keys out of the ignition and ran back to the restaurant where my friends were at, and that's the last thing I remember before waking up to a sternum rub from EMTs. Didn't know who I was, where I was, or what the hell had happened. And there was blood everywhere. Complete memory loss is absolutely terrifying. I was riding my bike home late one night, and coming my way is a big guy with sunglasses on. He gets me to stop and says, "Do you mind if I ask you some questions?" The fact that he said questions weirded me out, so I said, "No, sorry, I have to go," and I started riding away. At the next block there was a red light, so I stopped, I look back, and the guy is running towards me. He's about 20 feet away, and I freak out and just go. He got as close as about 5 feet from me before I pulled away. I'm sprinting on my bike, and like 3 or 4 blocks away I'm far away, and I look back. He's still chasing me. I never pedaled so hard in my life all the way home. I was riding my bike home late one night. Coming my way is a big guy with sunglasses on. That's already a red flag to nope the fuck out of there. I was about 10 years old, and I was in bed sleeping and get woken up by a noise on the street. It was about 1:30 a.m., so everyone was sleeping and the street was empty. The street in front of the house was a two-way street separated by an area of grass and plants. When I looked out the window, a white pickup truck was passing by our house on the other side of the street. Then it made a U-turn. It drove past my house, stopped, reversed really slowly. The passenger turned on a high-powered flashlight and shone the light into every window. Drove slowly forward again, still shining the light. When the truck passed our house, they turned the light off and waited. Reversed slowly, stopped in front of my house, waited, and then drove away. Really, really freaky. When the first paranormal movie came out, I was still living with my mom. I saw it with my then boyfriend and was terrified. Later that night, I was in bed. I tossed and turned for about an hour or two, freaked out to sleep. Every little noise in the house got my heart thumping. When I actually began to fade out, I heard something in the kitchen at the other end of the house. Then footsteps down the hall, getting closer to me. Like someone was sliding their hand along the wall. 2 seconds away from wetting myself, and my bedroom door opens. I screamed bloody murder. My mom has been sleepwalking and was just as terrified as I was. Alright, this didn't end creepy, but in the moment, well, you'll see. I picked up a hitchhiker who was dressed like he worked road construction on my way to work early one morning. As we were driving through a small town, there's a house all sectioned off with police tape and cops' cars out front. The guy turns to me and says, "There was a double murder there this morning." And for that brief moment, I almost had a heart attack. Just something about having a stranger say that in my car was so horrifying, as if I expected him to admit to it and kill me right then and there. After that moment faded, I laughed and told him how creepy that sounded, and we both laughed about it. And he didn't kill me, so it ended well. I was in high school, working as a lifeguard/maintenance worker at a private pool. It started storming, and the patrons all left pretty quickly, leaving myself and a couple other staff members. There were a couple full trash cans left, and my boss asked me to take them to the dumpster in our little utility vehicle, a John Deere Gator. As I rush to the Gator, the rain and lightning pick up. I drive as fast as I can through the 2 parking lots to the dumpster. As I'm approaching, I saw a shadowy figure in the woods that looked like maybe it could be a straggling kid pissing or something. I stop the Gator about 15 feet away from the dumpster and get out to try and get a better look. As soon as I get out, lightning strikes the dumpster and everything went white and my ears were ringing horribly. I remember falling to the ground and thinking the lightning struck and killed me. I regained my composure and threw the trash out. The next day, I investigated the shadowy figure, and it was just some dark vines. TLDR, almost got killed by lightning. This is probably the most frightening / embarrassing moment of my life. One time I walking down an unlit trail behind my house. It was 4 in the morning and darkness swept across my vision. The full moon dimly lit the world around me just enough to cast shadows upon the earth. As I walked, I heard strange footsteps behind me. I turned around. Nobody. Getting nervous, I began to walk again. Clickety-clack, clickety-clack. I turned. Nothing. I turned around and looked to the floor, and all the blood in my face paled. The moon lined up S&D revealed a shadow of a man behind me. I screamed and tripped. How is this embarrassing, you ask? Turns out I had a rock stuck in my shoe, and I kept scraping the concrete in a way that made footsteps I thought were mine. Paranoid and scared, I began to freak out a little. The moon was behind me when I looked down. You know what that means, right? I was scared of my own shadow. TLDR, I was spooked by my own shadow like a fucking groundhog. Winter lasted a couple weeks longer that year. A friend and I, both dudes, were walking through some ravine at 2 a.m. and discussing the recent sexual assaults in the vicinity. Just as we were about to enter a completely pitch-black tunnel beneath a bridge, this 6 feet 6 inches dude wearing a hat and trench coat appears from the mouth of darkness and walks by without saying a word. We nearly shit ourselves. I was watching TV probably 3-ish years ago. The TV had a small glare on it, and I could kind of see the sunlight light from the hallway reflected on it. It was probably 2 to 3 in the afternoon. I was completely alone. The wife was at work. I was watching TV, and I noticed in the glare, the silhouette of a tall man stepped into view. I froze solid and didn't make any movement or noise. In fact, if you were looking at me from behind, I would have appeared to remain in the exact same state. But somehow the silhouette of the man stopped right when I noticed it, lingered for a second, appeared to raise its arm and wave, and then stepped out of view. I didn't hear a door open/close, didn't hear a window budge or break, or anything, and I didn't find any evidence of anyone. Probably just the light playing tricks on me. I don't believe in ghosts or anything like that, but I still can't explain this. I just had a party, and it was about 1 in the morning, and I decided I'd go for a walk. I got about 5 kilometers, 3 miles, away from my house when I found a roundabout and sat down on it. I put my head in my legs. I don't know how long I stayed like that for. Then suddenly, I hear this really loud whisper. It called my name, Ben. Not my name, but let's just say it is. I sat the fuck up and froze, looking around for the fucker who did that. I started feeling really cold all of a sudden, but I'm sure that was just because I was cold. Then, again, this voice loud whispered my name. It seemed to come from all around me. I stood the fuck up, and then I hear the scraping, like the sound when you drag chalk across asphalt. It was coming from down the road, and sounded like it was heading straight for me. As the sound got louder and louder, I got colder and colder, and then this breeze rushed through me as the scraping stopped. Needless to say, I ran the fuck home as fast as I could. All 5 chilometri. Needless to say, I ran the fuck home as fast as I could. All 5 chilometri. You got possessed by the ghost of a marathon runner. My first visit to New York, a colleague, and I decided to visit a palm reader. After reading my coworker's palm with more accurate than we would have thought possible, but not completely astounding results, the woman took my money and my hand in that order. Glancing down at my hand, her eyes went wide open and her face drained of color. She literally threw the money I had just paid her back at me, being careful to make sure it was the bill that I had given her, and lifting it as if it was dirty. She then screamed at me, "Get out," which I did forthwith. This incident has kept me from ever having any kind of prognostications done in any form for my entire life. I was drive-by shot while pumping gas. Bullet hit gas pump and shattered the glass. This was an old-school pump with the flipping numbers in 1985. I ran to the gas station building, and the guy inside saw what happened and locked the door and hid inside. He wouldn't let me in, ran to car, and tore off. Pretty scary shit. Edit. Typo. Walked home alone after a late class at university. Saw 3 guys in the distance and thought nothing of it as I'm a guy myself. As I approach, I turn my iPod down so I can hear them. I don't make eye contact, but out of nowhere, I feel this blunt force hit the back of my head. One of them has hit me. I throw my backpack around to the front as it contains my textbooks, and I square up. For what seems like an eternity, I exchange blows with 3 guys. My face is busted, eyes are blurry, head hurting. I'm getting pummeled. Then, out of nowhere, I hear someone screaming, and the 3 guys split. This middle-aged Asian woman who was waiting for the bus has come to my aid. She's screaming at the guys whilst I'm trying to catch my breath and not pass out. She's my hero, but that was the scariest thing that's happened to me. TL, DR got jumped by 3 chumps, saved by an Asian lady. When I was younger, I was outside bringing in groceries. I didn't live in the best neighborhood, so oftentimes I wasn't too frightened by noise, but one noise really got to me. It was the sound of metal being dragged against the ground. Like someone was dragging something really heavy. It was coming from the house across the street from me. This alone didn't particularly frighten me, but then I heard what I thought was a scream of the blood-curdling variety. I noped the fuck out and did the old all groceries in my hand at once trick. I went to bed and heard the metal noise again as I went to sleep. Later found out there was a home invasion across the street. Had fallen asleep around 9 p.m. and was awoken a little later by the sound of rumblings and glasses vibrating together. As I woke and lifted my head off the pillow, I saw what I believed to be my girlfriend's hands pull the walk-in closet door shut, as if she'd shut herself inside. I mumbled, "What the fuck are you doing?" Just as I finished my sentence, she walked through our bedroom door from the hallway. I remember feeling confused and asked her what the hell was going on. She told me there was an earthquake. Still weary, I was all kinds of WTF. I eventually asked my other half, "So, who just went in the closet?" "Don't say that." I jumped off the bed and opened the closet door. "Nothing, just a closet." Honestly, I'm by far very skeptical about supernatural happenings, but I still to this day logically can't explain what happened. I creeped myself out by asking if maybe the earthquake happened to wake me up and stop whatever was about to happen to me. Whatever was stood over me whilst I slept had to quickly escape. And I saw a glimpse of something I shouldn't. Shutters. When I was a little kid, I was really afraid of aliens, and it didn't help the elementary school library had a bunch of books about aliens, and I was an avid reader. I stopped being afraid of them and didn't think about them too often. One night, I was in my room at around 3 a.m. on my phone watching YouTube when a light the shape of my window appeared on my wall. I looked at the window and a light was just hovering there. It was just sitting there, watching me. I just stared at the light and silently hoped it would go away. After around 30 seconds, it flew away, moving right. It saw me. I can't really explain, but in those few seconds it knew I could see it. I was so terrified, I did a slow walk to my parents across the wall and told them what happened. They shrugged it off since it was late and they were tired, and I went back to bed. For the next, I had trouble sleeping, and I would check over my shoulder every once in a while to make sure it wasn't there. I also started sleeping with my contacts so that if it came back around, I might be able to make something out. Wait a second, are you still a little kid or what? Watching YouTube on a phone is a fairly recent thing. No one believes my story that I've told so far. It was pretty early in the morning, maybe 3 a.m. or so, and I just climbed into bed. I had one leg out of my covers and the rest of my body inside. I shit you not, something slapped my bare thigh. I'm not even talking a light touch or a brush against my skin, but it hit so hard that it left my leg tingling. I was pretty scared, so I hid under my covers. Not sure why I didn't check for a handprint from the hit or anything. I was too scared, I suppose, but I could feel the handprint from the slap if you understand what I mean. Like I said, nobody believes me, and I'm told I was dreaming, but I stick by it. Never used to believe in ghosts, but I do now. Please consider subscribing if you enjoyed. Love.